Yo, 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 what is going on, everyone? How are we doing? How are we doing today? It is January 31st, 2026. It is the end of the first month in January. I hope you guys have been having a great first month to the year. I'll be honest with you, besides Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo and a couple other things, my beautiful dogs and my beautiful girlfriend and everything else that I've got going on, I think this was a pretty shitty month. 2026 isn't off to a good start in general, I feel like, for the world, but that's all right. We carry on. We got nothing but great things to talk about today. We're gonna get rid of that negative energy, and just like Deborah, we're gonna just multiply that shit and we're gonna turn it into positive energy, baby, because this chapter was great in multiple ways. Besides just, you know, it was cool to see Yuji, right? Like, that was obviously one big thing that was very clear from the beginning. But I think we got a little bit of really cool lore in this chapter that I'm really excited to talk about as well. First of all, start with this really cool color page. We'll get that right off the jump. And second of all, how the heck are all of you guys doing? I hope all of you guys are having a great day today. Hope you guys got a good weekend ahead of you. What up, Slendy? What up, Dominic? Starting a new job? Hey, good luck, brother. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear good things. And I know it's crazy that we are at 20 chapters already, right? Time flies. It feels like Modulo just started not too long ago. Orange hair, Surika is fire. I just actually kind of noticed that, how it kind of blends in perfectly with the orange. I love how, like, the blue and the orange, it's just a perfect transition. Might not even be orange, might even be like red. I'd be super curious to know who colored this one because, like, classically Gege is always colorblind. He's always fucking colors up for characters. But either way, maybe one did the other. I still think it's super duper cool. I love Yuta's grandchildren. Unlike Yuji. Yuji hates them. I'm just kidding, but leaning into the idea that Yuka and Cross are gonna die by the end of Modulo, I mean, sheesh. It's tough. Someone might end up going. And based off of the cliffhanger of this chapter, we might have someone go a lot sooner than we expect. 1 second, y'all. All right, we're back. Gege could include the Grinch in color in blue, not realizing it's the wrong color. Literally. But let's get into the chapter. I do have free reign because what we're going to do from now on is we're going to do the chapter summary and the stream completely separate. So I already recorded the chapter summary. The lovely Jessie is editing it right now, and she will provide everything, you know, when she's done with it. And what I will be doing is I'm just going to be free balling. We're going to be talking about everything that there is to talk about, because I think there are a lot of direct, single, like, very important things that I do want to discuss from the very beginning of the chapter, right? Because one of the things that was not apparent based off of the translations that everything was going on with, I mean, for let's start, like I said, with the positive energy. Let's start with some positive vibes. And that positive vibe is we can finally confirm without a doubt Todo is alive and well. My brothers and sisters, we won. We truly won here today by finding out this information. We can see here that Kugasaki tells Mino that if he wants to find Itadori, he can most likely find out by talking to Todo, because Todo is sure to know where Yuji is. And Mino goes, oh, great. So, like, can you tell me where Todo is? We don't know where he is. And Nobara goes, I don't know where No, not this girl. Not this girl. Not on the side. Nobara is not shown. Nobara is not shown. It's on the left. I should have made that clear. Forget about the other side. We're not talking about that right now. We talking about this side. That girl don't exist right now. She's not present. So, anyway, Nobara is like, I can't get you in touch with Todo. And Mina goes, oh, well, then who'd be able to get me in touch with Todo? Nobara goes, oh, Yuji can get you in touch with Todo. And it's just the perfect circular cycle where he's like, well, I need to find Yuji to find Todo, but I need to find Todo to find Yuji. And he goes, who are we going to find first? And Nobara says, I mean, aside from Yuji, everyone else hates Todo's guts. Which is just the worst thing fucking imaginable to hear, that even 70s, even in their 70s and 80s, everyone can't fucking stand Todo to the point where they lost contact with Todo and they don't know where he is, and Yuji might be the only person that knows how to get in touch with Todo. Crazy. But you know what? I'm sure Todo, you know, found the love of his life. And he married Takeda, the pop idol that he loves so much. You know what? I'm sure he set that up. The ex-first grade sorcerer, maybe he defected. I can imagine. You know what? You know what wouldn't surprise me? It wouldn't surprise me if after Yuji left, Todo was like, I'm off on my own path. If this place isn't good enough for my brother, then I'm not good enough. And like everyone's like, Todo, you're in a wheelchair. Like you're 70 years old, bro. Like Todo, you can't. You haven't been in action for 30 years. And he's like, nah, get me out of here. I put in my resignation. Todo, you retired 15 years ago. Why? Todo only threatened to kill his classmates once we saw Todo's wacky, but overall pretty chill. Why the hate? First of all, love Boku no Color. Happy to have you in chat. Second of all, I think it's the same thing as like, I was actually talking about this in the Discord, where I think Todo is just like an insufferable person to be around. Like, I don't think it's like, I don't think it's not that Todo's a good heroic guy. I think it's literally like when people hang out with Todo, they hate him. Like, you can kind of see it in like the Jujutsu Kaisen, the baseball game episode, where like they're talking about playing the baseball game, and then Todo just starts yapping about philosophy and like the hidden knowledge of like what playing baseball will be able to do for their growth. And like everyone, even Gojo's like, dude, what's wrong with you? He's like, how old are you again? Aren't you like a 16, 17-year-old? He goes, why are you talking like this? And like, I also compared it to the situation with Gojo, where like, if you also notice, everyone and their mother just talks shit about Gojo that actually knows him. Like Utahime, like all of the adults, Shoko, like all Ijichi, none of the Nanami, none of the adults actually like Gojo as a person. Like he's a coworker that they have to deal with and like they go out with sometimes. But like even in the light novels, when Gojo goes out with Ijichi and Shoko, he's just annoying to be around. And I think it plays into the idea of like being one of the strongest sorcerers. Like you're an extremely, you know, very selfish, very egotistical, very self-centered person. And like, it's just, you know, sometimes those people aren't very fun to be around for normal people. You're just kind of annoying. And unless you're able to match that energy, then, or you're just as insufferable in other ways, it's tough. So I think everyone hates him just because everyone's like, yeah, dude, I don't like this guy. This guy's annoying. All he does is talk about pop idols, and all he does is drag me around to shit he wants. I assume it's like extreme narcissism. Right? Like, just like Gojo is an extreme narcissist. It's just these guys do it and it, you know, end up, you know, using their narcissism for good ways by being good Jujutsu sorcerers and helping save the world and shit. But yeah, I think it's very clear, like it's like a personality type thing where people just hate this motherfucker. I mean, you even see it a little bit in the episode right before they announce Yuji is going to participate in the exchange event, and they announce Yuji's still alive, and like Gojo and Nanami are hanging out in that room, and Nanami's just, you know, chilling. He's just trying to read his paper, and Gojo will not shut the fuck up. He's like, Nanami, what's going on? You heard this one joke about this? Hey, Nanami, we should make a YouTube video right now. I'll be the one guy and you be this guy. All right, let's do it. Actually, Nanami, never mind. Let's turn it around and let's sing some songs. And like Nanami's like, dude, shut the, like, he's like, dude, come on, man. He's like, I'm just trying to chill, and you just can't turn it off. You know, it's just, unless you're able to match that wavelength, which you literally see, like that's when like Yuji starts like doing the dance, and then Gojo's fucking doing his little whatever. Like, yeah, because Yuji and Gojo share a brain cell. And think about it, Yuji's able to share a brain cell with Gojo, but when it comes to fucking when it comes to Todo, even Yuji's like, this guy's a little wonky. Also, you know what? I think Phantom Parade does an amazing job of showing this, because there's the one scene in Phantom Parade where Todo is he's in the sauna with Yuji, and then they go to exorcise the curse that's spying on them, and like they're both like running around in just their towels, and then they both go to report the incident to Yaga, and Yaga's like, you guys couldn't put any clothes on to do the exorcism, and Yuji's like, I'm so sorry, like Todo dragged me without letting me put clothes on. And then Yuji turns around and Todo has his full outfit and clothes on, and Todo's like, what are you talking about, Yuji? You really need to learn place and time, man. Like, he goes, I was always closed this entire time. And it's like, bitch, you literally dragged me into this situation. What do you mean? What do you mean? You know, like, you gaslighter, like like, so like, yeah, like Todo's just a piece of shit. Like, I don't know what to tell you. He's looking out for himself and himself alone. Do I think Mahito will return? So do you think we'll get a Yuji Todo versus Mahito? Listen, one of the first things I thought about was when I saw that Todo was still alive, was tell me they're gonna bring old man Todo back in some fucking way. By the end for the final fight, right? Like, tell me they're gonna fucking like Toto's gonna show up, you know, they're gonna literally roll him in on a wheelchair, and he goes, if my brother's gonna be fighting, I swore I'd still be here, and he's gonna fucking smack the little Vibra slap or whatever mechanical technological advancement they gave him so he could level up his boogie woogie again for the third time. And now he's fucking boogie woogie clapping like at the speed of light to help. Yo, that's how Yuji reaches. That's how Yuji keeps up with the Bora, bro. That is, you heard it here first. That is literally how Yuji will keep up with the Bora. Is Todo will fucking show up one last time with some crazy technological advancement for boogie woogie. And that will help Yuji keep up and fucking swap at the speed of light and throw hands with Deborah. Yo, I cracked the Da Vinci Code right there. You can't turn this around here. That's literally what's gonna happen. And if it's not, then Gege, just turn the pen over to me. I'll write the story for you, because that's peak fiction. I think it would be so funny if the one thing that gets Yuji to stop being hella depressed is Todo rolling up with his boogie woogie pacemaker. It is sad to know that, because a lot of people were saying that, you know, everyone was hoping Todo, if Todo was still alive, we would be able to, Yuji wouldn't be as depressed, so Todo must be dead. But nope, Todo's alive, and Yuji seems to be the only person that knows how to get in contact with Todo. But yeah. Yuji doesn't seem depressed, to be honest with you. Yuji just seems resolved. He's like, yeah, you know what? I'm done being the way that I am. So one of the first things that I wanted to touch base on, and of course, obviously, I can't have the, of course, obviously, I can't have the text or anything on screen. This is not a market substitute. I'm not rehosting the chapter. This is just my reaction, commentary, and review. Please support the official release any way you possibly can. This is just transformative content. Yuji's, that's a perfect transition to talk about what Yuji's up with. Yuji's on his Freerin arc. You know what? Kinda. Honestly, kind of. Yuji is realizing that his story is over. I said this in the chapter review that I recorded earlier, so you guys will probably see it later. That's another cool aspect of the chapter reviews being recorded beforehand, is you guys have a completely, unique perspective. It's unique content, even if you tune into the stream. But Yuji and the monologue, and the correctly translated monologue that we have, it seems like Yuji has just acknowledged that, yes, I'm ageless, yes, I'm immortal, but at that same time, my story needs to end eventually. I cannot continually play in the matters of the world just because I am ageless and I am immortal. What Yuji, at least in his specific situation, realizes is that I, as a soldier, may not be able to die. No one may be able to kill me. I may never be able to die, and I may be able to be present on this world forever. But that doesn't mean that I can't just fade away to time. That doesn't mean that I can't just disappear and the world can move on without me. And it's, while for Mino doesn't understand it. Mino's like, you have the power to stop this. You have the chance to save Yuka. You have the chance to step in. Yuka didn't need to do this death binding vow. Deborah didn't need to learn all of this jujutsu by fighting Maharaga. Like, none of these things needed to happen. And Yuji just straight up says, I don't give a fuck. Yuji straight up says, I don't care. That's not my problem. Which a lot of people might deem as crazy, but I mean, it makes sense. Should Yuji just constantly participate and always interfere and always just be, Yuji Itadori forever? Does he never get a chance to rest? Does he never get a chance to stop watching the people around him die and go out? And does Yuji really have to live eternal life, like always, surrounded by sorcery? And because of how strong he is, he would basically always be influencing the world around him. Everyone would be strong, just as strong as he was, or the world would have to compensate for his power. But if he can just fade away into oblivion, fade away into where he doesn't exist anymore, he can let the world just develop on its own. It seems very specific that Yuji does not want to interfere with the battles that are going on. He does not interfere with the growth that is going on between Tsurugi, Yuka, and even, as he says, I don't want anyone to interfere and get in the way of those two. And then he changes his sentence and goes, well, actually, those four, I guess I should say. Which means he's also speaking about Maru and Deborah as well. He doesn't believe anyone should be able to stifle their own personal growth. They need to be able to solve the world's problems on their own. And honestly, that's what Tsurugi and Yuka wanted, right? From the very beginning, from chapter 2 of the manga. Both Tsurugi and Yuka wanted to be able to be like their grandfather, like their grandmother. And it also probably helps that there isn't really a true bad guy here. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Imagine Yuji supernovas, and then they could work like an insta-kill infinity. Listen, the supernova, honestly, like the piercing blood may have been like Yuji's like variation and change up with supernova, because supernova is very interesting in the way that it works. So maybe Yuji took some level of the supernova blueprint and applied that to piercing blood, because that separated piercing blood like volley was unreal. What if Yuji turned himself into a cursed object like Sukuna did, so he could go into rest hibernation and kept as an absolute last resort in case there's no other way to beat the enemy? I guess that's a possibility, but then I guess doesn't Yuji basically become Sukuna at that point? It's kind of ironic. That'd be very ironic. Maybe that is the end of Yuji's journey, right? But what's absolutely insane is that, like, Yuji came to this conclusion over the course of 68 years. The last time we saw Yuji was very hopeful for the future. And it's funny too, because the scene that the page that we have him saying he doesn't care to be Itadori Yuji anymore. He's like taking his hand and he crumples it up in the fist, and that's almost like the exact same pose he makes at the end of the original Jujutsu Kaisen. Like, this is the same Yuji in a sense. He's just a much more matured. 68 years have gone by. Like, this is a completely different Yuji all at the same time. He's not evil, he's not malevolent, he's not even a bad person. He just doesn't want to be involved and wants to let the world go on without him. He doesn't want to be Itadori Yuji anymore. He doesn't want to be the sorcerer that never ages and always has to watch people around him just die and fall short of what they really want to be. At a certain point, it just becomes too much. It's to the point that he didn't even want to get seen here. Mino seeing him is like, he's like, fuck, someone saw me. People just want another Gojo in this scenario. Yeah, I mean, I mean, very famously did not like Yuta's speech about Gojo always being the weapon, and for once we need to stop looking at Gojo as the weapon and someone else needs to take up the mantle. This is Yuji basically embodying that segment. This is Yuji basically embodying those words. It's a combined philosophy. Yuji is not Gojo. I think that's very extremely, important to remind ourselves. Yuji is not Gojo. Yuji comes to a completely different conclusion, where Gojo's conclusion in life was to be present, but at the same time raise a generation of people that might someday be able to overpower him and defeat him, right? Gojo had a very hands-on approach to being the strongest. However, Yuji, again, because he's immortal, chose a completely different direction. And I think his ageless immortality is the most important piece to this. It's very important to remember. That's the only reason why he does what he does, right? It's the only reason why he does what he does. Because the thing is, with everything going on, is I said it originally, Gojo was eventually able to leave his students behind. Yuji, if he stayed around, never would. There's not anything that's capable of defeating him. There hasn't been a special grade incident since Sukuna. So Yuji being around, the world would constantly be stagnant. Nothing would change. Nothing would ever go wrong. The people that complain about how weak sorcery is, and that, they should all be monsters. Gojo failed because not everyone is a monster. Well, the problem is not everyone can be a monster when you have someone solving all your problems for you. People want Yuji to be the guy, the strongest, that just steps in and solves the Deborah issue, and, making Modulo only last 5 chapters because Yuji should just be the strongest. When it's like, in actuality, Yuji's like, nah, fuck that shit. He goes, I don't want to do that. That's not my problem. This is your guys' problem. You figure it the fuck out. I'm only stepping in because you guys couldn't figure out the curse spirit issue. He goes, I'll step in, I'll kill all the curse spirits for you, and you know what? If you guys can't beat Deborah, I'll step in and handle that too to make sure Earth doesn't get destroyed. Hello, Sadie. Hi, my girl. Don't jump on the bed. Go in your bed. Yeah, be a good girl. Good baby. Yeah, rest your leg. What if Yuji can reverse the Black Flash? Oh no. He's grown to be extremely apathetic over time. I can't entirely fault him, but I'm still going to voice my qualms over specific choices like letting Rika and Tsurugi handle threats like this on their own. I mean, to be fair, based off of what happens, both Yuka and Tsurugi seem to have risen to the occasion. All's, you know, in all absolute fairness. Because at the end of the day, there's so many people going through and going back to Shinjuku Showdown that said, without Gojo, there's no one that would be able to defeat Sukuna. There's no one that would be able to stop Sukuna. There's no way that anyone would be able to defeat him. And when Gojo died, the constant meme was, what is this guy gonna do? What are we gonna do? And yet somehow, some way, the generation that Gojo raised was still able to rise to the occasion and stop the King of Curses. The King of fucking Curses that hadn't been defeated in 1,000 years. Somehow, even without Gojo being present, they were still able to make it work. You could argue they still needed him to help a little bit, but at the same time, the world moved on without Gojo. For a world of sorcery that's like, how are we gonna stop these threats without Gojo? Why can't Gojo just solve everything? Why can't we just have Gojo beat this person? Gojo should have just done this. Gojo should have just done this. At a certain point, when does the rest of the world actually pick up the slack and pick up that autonomy? Because if Gojo just did everything, how is anyone else supposed to grow? And I think that's the philosophy that Yuji came up to. Maybe Yuji existing attracted the Sumerians and Deborah to Earth, not intentionally, but by the give and take nature of Jujutsu. I know that Maru's curse technique was definitely significantly important. Maru and Cross's technique, because it links them with the perfect match. That's how they were able to find Tsurugi in the very first chapter. So according to Maru's curse technique, the perfect match for the Sumerian, or for the Lumelians, was Earth. But again, I think based off of what Yuji says here, I think Yuji essentially says that, you know, even if you don't agree with it, I think Yuji essentially says that I need to make sure no one tries to get in the way of those two. Well, those four, I guess. And yeah, like, yeah, Tsurugi would never have been this strong if Yuji intervened. And whether you want to say Yuka dies or not, the whole fact of the matter is Yuka still did what she wanted to do, right? Like, Tsurugi even kind of says this when he's fighting Maru. Tsurugi specifically mentions that, you know, Yuka always said she wanted to have a grand death on a battlefield, you know, fighting for something that was important. But I refuse to allow that. I refuse to let that happen. You know, that's why Tsurugi is fighting Maru. A lot of people said that Tsurugi and Maru seems kind of pointless at this point, but Tsurugi and Maru isn't pointless to either of those characters, right? Like, does Tsurugi and Maru determine the fate of the universe itself? No. But does Tsurugi and Maru's fight determine where both of these characters will develop going forward from the future? And is it not one of the most significantly important, probably pivotal moments of their actual lives? Like, to Tsurugi and Maru, this is their defining moment. This is the fight that will change who they are forever. No matter who wins, whether Tsurugi wins, no matter Maru wins. Seems like Tsurugi might win, but no matter who wins here, like this, and no matter who survives, this is a pivotal moment for both of these characters to find out who they are as people, what they stand for, and what's important to them. Tsurugi's goal was to grow stronger and prove he doesn't need Rika, which is, yeah. which, yeah, Tsurugi eventually gets Rika, but how does Tsurugi end the fight? Tsurugi says, "Thank you, Rika, I've got it from here." And Rika falls apart, and in a final binding vow, it does seem like Tsurugi actually gives up his cursed energy and becomes similar to his grandmother. Now, we don't know that for sure. We definitely need some more clarification on what this specific quotation means. But it is completely possible that by sacrificing the ring, sacrificing Rika here, Tsurugi does trade away all of his cursed energy to grow. And I think that I think why I do like this is, if this is the case, is it kind of goes hand in hand with what Yuji was saying. Tsurugi sacrifices that piece of his grandfather that was left, that piece of his grandfather that was always left for them to keep them going and keep them and help them survive if they truly needed it. Even Rika said that Yuta tasked Rika with doing exactly what she is doing here. So it's symbolic that Tsurugi, if he does make the if he does make a binding vow to trade Rika away for greater strength, greater speed, and to become like his grandmother, because he doesn't want to be Yuta Okotsu, remember? He doesn't want to be Yuta with the connection to Rika and the connection to the curse techniques and the connection to everything. Tsurugi wants to prove himself and prove that Maki Zenin, prove that his grandmother was a righteous way. Prove that everyone that looks down on his grandmother now that she's dead was wrong, was just as wrong as all of the people that doubted Maki when she was younger. Imagine next chapter starts with Yuka and Tsurugi talking and both of them died. What would be rough here is if Cross survives and Maru dies. That'd be crazy, right? Yuka and Maru are the ones that die, and Cross and Tsurugi are the survivors. That would be pretty wild. It almost seems like despite Yuji's new mentality of not getting involved, the new generation was only able to barely scrape by and rise up to the occasion. It makes you wonder if he was really right. I mean, again, it all depends on perspective. Like, it all completely depends on perspective. Because if you really think about it, at the end of the day, Yuji was still there to clean up for everyone. Was he not? Even when Mino starts to freak out, he goes, hey, look. He goes, don't worry. He goes, I'm going to handle all the cursed spirits. If Yuka loses, I'll even handle Deborah too. He goes, but the whole point is to make sure that no one interferes. He goes, my whole reasoning for doing this is to make sure to not interfere. He goes, if I absolutely have to, I'll do what I've got to do. But up until that point, you guys are on your own. Which I think ultimately is fair. Again, you could, like I said, you can look at so many different ways to go about it. And also you can, I also think it's very telling that when Yuji does summon Dismantle, right? I think also like his inherently kind nature, right? Hey, thank you, #1 fan. Thank you for the 5 gifted. Thank you for the love and appreciate the support. Happy to see you here. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think it's very interesting how, like, even with all of the issues, all of the problems that are in this world, like, Yuji's still so forgiving and he's still so nice. Like, he goes, you guys completely failed to gather all these curses up. He goes, you know what? You guys just underestimated how absurd the numbers would get, and you know what? I guess can't be helped. You know, you guys are still kind of new to this, but you know what? Let me just handle this for you. something. It's the Yuji dismantle that cleaves through the entire horde of cursed spirits. Unreal. You can see how wide and how fucking strong that dismantle is in every single page. You see it cleave through the cursed spirits, and then you see how wide it is, covering almost more than a single building, right? Like, that thing is, that's such a large and wide dismantle, and I am telling you for sure that explosion on that page is Yuji's dismantle. A lot of people are unsure of why there's an explosion, when in reality what that most likely is it's the dismantle cleaving through all of the cursed spirits and then slamming into a portion of the ground, right? Like, it's probably that because of how large that size was, it probably just fucking eventually ran into a bunch of buildings and stopped. So is that why Iori disappeared? He wanted Yuji to step in and fix his problem, but Yuji refused. That's a good question. We do have a lot of questions now surrounding Iori Okotsu and what's going on with him, because we do know Iori Okotsu spoke with Yuji here. And Iori Okotsu was like talking to Yuji for some reason, presumably in regards to the weakness of the generation, the weakness of curse techniques, the weakness of his children, all that stuff. And Yuji says, none of that matters, dude. None of that's stupid. None of that is important to me. And from that moment after that conversation, it seems like Iori disappeared. A lot of people were doing the theory, oh, Iori, you know, made a binding vow with Mahito. That's why he shows up with Tsurugi, and that's how Yuka got the 10 shadows. We don't know. But you could say that maybe Iori was inspired in a sense by Yuji, right? And Iori said, okay, if you're gonna disappear and you think that's the right move, maybe that's what I will do to inspire the next generation, right? Like, maybe Iori kind of took after Yuji in a sense, where realizing that he had finally that he had given birth to Yuka, who may have actually gotten a, you know, a curse technique, he said, all right, I'm gonna leave. Or maybe that was the binding vow that he made, right? Maybe the binding vow was, because a lot of people have correctly pointed out that you can't exactly know if a child has a curse technique until they're like 4 or 5, or whenever it actually appears and awakens. So maybe that was part of the binding vow. Maybe being inspired by Yuji, Iori said, I'm going to leave. And by leaving, I want to guarantee that my next born child will have a curse technique. What if Iori reclused himself in some sort of training arc to become the new monster and take care of things, since Yuji refused to do so? There's a lot of different things that could go on with Iori right now. Whether or not we get that answer, it's definitely unsure, because we do only have a couple of chapters left. We're starting to run low. We're starting to run low on chapters for sure. I'm starting to believe that one theory of Yuji's daughter or granddaughter because she wasn't targeted by Yuji. It's a good possibility. She is a grade 1 sorcerer. We don't know her name, I think. But that's a good theory, that one sorcerer lady I've seen. I can't dispute that. I feel like if Yuji had a family, though, we would have heard about it. No, like, you know what I mean? Like, we would have talked, they would have talked about that. Like, I feel like someone would have been like, well, you're Yuji's granddaughter, why don't you try and reach out to him? Or like I feel like if or like we should try to reach out to the Itadori family. I feel like it's almost very clear like Yuji didn't have any kids. I don't think Yuji had any family. Yuji may have, if anything, had like a wife that maybe died before he did. Like that's the most I'm willing to amount to, because they do have that Ozawa setup like at the very epilogue chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen. That could possibly hint at Yuji, having a potential like relationship. But yeah, I think it's very clear that Yuji didn't father any children or like have any kind of family. It's Todo's daughter? I would believe that. Do you think Yuji surpassed Sukuna? Very 110%, without a doubt. That base dismantle was, I think, stronger than anything we ever saw Sukuna do, bro. That base dismantle was crazy. Yuji dog walks Deborah? I don't think so at all. I think Yuji and Deborah, if anything, are probably the two strongest characters in the entire series right now. Deborah's sub-light speed is nothing to fucking play with at all. It's definitely the fastest thing that we have ever seen in the entire series, way faster than any character has ever possibly been. And the fact that one single kick is enough to launch like a nuclear explosion level attack on Maharaga and reduce him to like a single molecule that has to regenerate. That's just one kick. And now Deborah is unlocking reverse curse technique. He's got curse technique reversal that goes into a fucking black hole. I think Deborah is OP. I think Deborah has not only surpassed Gojo and Sukuna, I think Yuji has also surpassed them very clearly. It's hard to, you know what? I was a big advocate for Yuji not surpassing Gojo and Sukuna and no one doing it, but I was wrong. I was very wrong. Hey, Raymond, thank you so much for the don't. No, the fact that he's not going to interfere with the fights was okay, but him letting their lives on the line shook me a bit and was sad. What do you think? I mean, it's kind of like I said, similar. I mean, we know that as a sorcerer, having your life on the line and getting pushed to the brink is important for growth. It's part of the only thing that is what allows Megami to awaken to his, domain. I mean, if you really think about it at the same time, like, what if Gojo interfered in Origin of Obedience? You know what I mean, Ray? You know what I mean? Like let's say, for example, like right as Megami was knocked unconscious by the finger bearer, suddenly Gojo breaks into the domain and reds the finger bearer curse spirit, and then boom, Megami never unlocks domain expansion. Or Yuji and Nobara are getting put on the brink and almost about to die against Eso and Kechizu, and then Gojo shows up and blues everyone and wins. Or like even in the exchange event, like, well, that was, I guess Gojo was kept out of that, but I think to a certain point, like, I mean, it's the same thing as like when you're a parent to a child, even like not even doing the most extreme example of anime and manga, like you could argue, like, as a parent, you're letting your kid, you're risking your kid's life by letting them do, riding a bike on the highway, or letting your kid, that's a bad example, you shouldn't just let your kid ride on the open. You get what I'm saying though, right? Like at a certain point, even as a parent to a child, you have to let go and you have to let this person make their own mistakes, live their own lives, and learn their own lessons. You can be there for them to help guide them. You can be there for them to even solve some of the problems for them. But if you do everything for them, then they never learn how to do things themselves. They never learn how to be in those situations and handle them themselves. If Gojo constantly interfered with everything that his students did, think about how much more screwed everyone would have been when the Shibuya incident and the culling game came around and Gojo was no longer there without a choice, right? Like, once Gojo got sealed, if Yuji and Megumi weren't prepared enough and strong enough and headstrong enough to be like, don't worry, we've got this, we can pick up the slack for Sensei. And as soon as Gojo was gone, everyone was running around like, oh my god, what are we gonna do without Gojo? Guys, Gojo's gone. Guys, what are we gonna do? I don't know how to fight without Gojo. I don't know what, you know what I mean? Like, you at a certain point, like, you have to let it be. And in this case, Yuji is being, you know, a harsh, tough-loved parent. Like, Yuji is let alone the fact that Yuji's natural lifespan at this point, if he wasn't ageless and immortal, most likely would have ended up with him not being like at all involved even in the sense, right? Like, imagine if Yuji wasn't ageless and Yuji was just old as fuck and couldn't even fight anymore because he was old as hell. What's the difference? Or Yuji, just like everybody else in his friend group, or mostly everybody else, died of natural old age, like Yuta or Maki. They wouldn't have had Yuji Itadori to help against Deborah or the Sumerians at this point, right? Like, if Yuji was actually normal, gone and dead, the situation would have evolved the exact same. The very fact that Yuji is still around is an anomaly in and of itself. Yuji shouldn't be around. Yuji should be dead at this point. The fact that Yuji is immortal is bullshit. Yuji feels that it's bullshit. At a certain point, eventually, he's done being Itadori Yuji. He's like, look, I'm gonna live my life, do what I want. You guys handle this shit because I have handled this shit for a normal. I handled this shit for a whole lifespan. I don't need to handle this shit for 2 lifespans, right? I think that's fair of Yuji to say. And on top of that, he still involves himself to a degree on situations that they cannot solve themselves. Yuji solves the curse spirit problem and says he will fight Deborah if Deborah defeats Yuka. But what's of paramount importance is that no one interferes with these characters' growths because they will be the new shining light of the generations. Gojo at least made sure to train up sorcerers before croaking. No, you could definitely criticize him for that. I definitely think you can criticize Yuji for not at least sticking around to train sorcerers, or we don't know if he did. We don't know how much Yuji played a part in previous generations, or at least in the next coming generation. I have to imagine that Yuji was present in Jujutsu Society for at least most of his normal adult life. Like, that I don't think that's out of the question. There's no reason for Yuji to leave until his immortality and agelessness begins to actually affect him. Like, Nobara even says that up until a certain point, Yuji was present, and then after multiple people died in his friend group, Yuji says to Nobara, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep doing these deaths, my friends dying around me, and most of all, I can't keep watching all of you guys age, and I stay the same. So up until, like, Yuji was still present in Jujutsu Society up until, like, you could even say, you know, age 60, age 70, because I think at this point, what, if Yuji was 16 and it's been 68 years, Yuji's probably about 84 right now, at least in his 80s somewhere. And Yuta died 8 years ago, so he had to have left before that. And so, yeah, for at least 10 or so years, Yuji's been out. But up until, I'd say, his 60s or 70s, Yuji was probably still very around. But you also have to remember, right? Like, Yuji could still train sorcerers and do the best to train sorcerers. People like Iori Okotsu were still really well-known and strong sorcerers. We get that told to us. Raymond, thank you for the dono again. Thank you so much for the donation. Yeah, I get your point. Just very hooked and excited for the story now. He's gone through a lot as well. Oh, he definitely has. Much love indeed. Much love indeed, for sure.
At the Black Blur 405 tipped $5 through Super Chat. Why didn't they use a barrier to trap the cursed spirits? Did no one knew how to do barriers or found those barrier creating devices that one guy made?
Thank you for the 5, Black Blur. Appreciate that. So I do believe that the one woman in the higher ups mentions that she made tweaks to the barrier around Tokyo. I'm pretty sure there is a barrier specifically around Tokyo, but I believe at this point there's so many cursed spirits that they're going to start breaking through the barrier. I think is the actual ultimate issue. Is there's just so, even though they're only just grade 2 curses, there's literally so many of them that they're gonna start pouring out. And yeah, their barriers might also not be as powerful as they used to be. But I think it's also important to remember what Kenjaku says specifically with when he's fighting Shoso. Like, sure, I might only be able to use grade 2 curses. I might only use grade 2 curses instead of special grades all the time. But if I give them a little bit of power or I let them build up together, they can do a pretty good amount of damage. So yeah, I think overall, like, the barrier that they have just isn't strong enough to contain what is going on. Sadly. But yeah, Yuji's presence is actually insane. You got the Black Flash, all that stuff. Oh,
At the Unman 2084 tipped $5 through Super Chat. I'm absolutely okay with Yuji not involving himself. Just look at Dabura's frustration. Yeah, Komao shot first and Osuke escalated things.
I absolutely, yeah, but like, I absolutely agree. Like, the thing is Yakumaru, people like Asuki, shooting themselves in the foot, and they are completely ruining things for their own groups. You're always gonna have Asuki. I'm glad, of all people, I'm glad Asuki got fucking black flashed by Yuji here, because you know what, Asuki, I always hated Asuki from the very fucking beginning. This guy is trash, so I'm glad he got cooked. But seriously, in all seriousness, like, society and the world is always going to turn. The fact that when the going got tough is the first time anyone tried to reach out to Itadori Yuji. And not like, oh, you know, the Jujutsu High never sent Yuji a fruit basket every year and asked him how he's doing. But like, you think about it, no one fucking cared about Yuji up until they needed him for Deborah. So why would I care about you people? I don't know you. Yuji doesn't know these people. Yuji doesn't owe these people. Yuji doesn't owe these people anything. Everyone Yuji likes is dead. Mostly. He does still have friends alike, but you get my point. You get my point. Asuki didn't lose his arms, bro. Yeah, Asuki lost his pride. And he lost a couple ribs in his rib cage after that fucking black flash, bro. Asuki's not getting up for 2 years. Crippled. Yuji said, yeah, that this might not kill you. Fucking crazy. I said this before, that Yuji was gonna be in his Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi mode. Dude did his best and shit still sucks. But yeah, you've got fucking Deborah out here learning black holes. Crazy, but also appropriate. It makes sense. And he's got to hope that this kills Maharaga. He has to hope that this kills Maharaga, because if it doesn't, Deborah's cooked. Unless Deborah fucking awakens a purple type ability combining both, like Gojo had, that would be kind of crazy. But I don't see that happening. Have you talked about the blood and the no return sign on that last page? I mean, it's very apparent that that's just, you know, there's no turning back. I will say that one thing that's very apparent is I think one of the biggest influences for Modulo's story that I think comes out insanely strong in this chapter specifically is Suishida with both Tokyo Ghoul and Chojin X, because Chojin X just recently did this kind of thing as well, the no turning back thing in their story. They did it a couple chapters ago. And essentially it's just symbolism. It's like, from this moment on, the things that happen here will not be able to be reversed. I mean, they talked about this a couple chapters ago by opening Pandora's box. Did you think Maharaga will ever have a reason to speak? I think Maharaga is just an absolute incarnation of smoke. You know, I honestly, I think if Maharaga ever talked, he would lose aura instantly, right? I feel like keeping Maharaga as this non-speaking, smiling demon of combat just makes him so much cooler. Giving him a personality or giving him a voice just like adds. It's hard to describe. It's the same thing as like when you're watching a horror movie and like a monster is scarier when you can't really see what it is. You kind of have to use your imagination. But I mean, that's to each their own. That's a very particular thing for me. But you've got that, you got the Chojin X's, but also as well you have the Kaneki finger crack. I saw that shit, Iwasaki. I saw that shit, Iwasaki. You can't hide that from me. I see the Kaneki finger crack. Like, the clear inspiration here, I think, for sure. Rightfully so. Great manga. Great mangaka. But yeah, I mean, other than what I've mostly yapped about and said, like, the biggest thing besides that happens, besides Yuji and besides Deborah, is just Tsurugi getting the Soul Split Katana. That is a very big fucking, you know, a very big fucking level up for Tsurugi, who already had a major level up already. That's also Yuji holding the holding the axe blade back with micro cuts like Sukuna. Yeah, I believe so. I think that's exactly what he was doing. Either that or he had blood in his hands. I saw someone theorize Yuji actually broke his finger and then used RCT to generate heat from the steam, and having figured out the that is an insanely, you know, cool theory. I definitely think that's a really cool idea and a cool theory. That's one of those that I would definitely need to have spelled out and made sure, because like, while that sounds super cool and really awesome, that might be one of those things where, like, I don't know if Gege thought that far ahead. But it need to be blatantly spelled out that he did that. Yeah, exactly. That'd be one of those things that would need to be blatantly spelled out. We would need to have that told to us. Is Yuji going to be considered some kind of god by the Sumerians? Yeah, Asuki saying that he has the same presence as a Kallion is definitely going to play an important role in the story, and I definitely feel like it leads a lot of value towards the theory that Yuji has become, you know, half cursed spirit, or at least half cursed through all of the cursed objects he's devoured. His death painting persona is what has been keeping him alive. Could a 10 Shadows user imbue their curse technique into an object, and then if someone acquired it, they could take Maharaga? Maybe. I don't know if the Zenin clan's technique, maybe because it's an inherited technique, it might not be able to be pushed into a cursed object. That, like, maybe that's only capable of people that have like very personal techniques to them. I don't know. I mean, Nanami's curse technique getting put into a cursed object was definitely a really cool thing. But maybe it's required depending on the spirit, right? Like maybe there's a binding vow that needs to be involved, or there needs to be something that happens with that person's death, because otherwise why wouldn't they just turn everyone that dies into a cursed object? Maybe because they're impossible to drag back and get remains from, but you know what I mean? Like, I feel like at that point we would just turn everyone into cursed objects, no? But the last big thing really of the chapter is like potentially Tsurugi did trade in his cursed energy in that final panel to get this last power up that's going to make him capable of being just like his grandmother, which was always the main appeal, always the one big thing that he wanted out of everything. So yeah, I mean, this chapter was peak. What do I think happens next chapter? I mean, I really don't know, to be honest with you. It's really tough to say. Like, I feel like, first of all, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button. That helps the channel a lot. Before I get into it really quickly, I just want to say hit the like button if you haven't already. It takes 1 second, completely free, and it helps support the channel a lot. Thank you in advance. But next chapter, so many things are just left on a cliffhanger, right? Like, say it what you will with Yuji. I don't know if we'll necessarily cut back to Yuji next chapter. Because what? I mean, essentially, both Tsurugi and Yuka's fights should be over now. All of that, both major fights right now in this climax should be over. So I think what's going to be most important next chapter is showing us the result of both of these fights. Because remember, with the 3-volume limit, we've got about 25 to 26 chapters of Modulo, which means now that we've entered chapter 20, we've got about 5-6 chapters left. We're coming up on the end here, so we do have to close things out relatively quickly, but not only just relatively quickly, we can't have any, it's very unlikely we'll have any new threads being revealed. Did Gege show Mahito for no reason? I mean, we just don't know. I mean, unless Mahito comes back in any significant way in these last couple of chapters to steal the show as the main villain, I don't know. Then maybe that's also why Yuji showed up. He knew Mahito was set to appear today. I really don't know. It's almost, honestly, it's really almost impossible to tell you. Next chapter is an anomaly and a half. There's so much to close out with. Are we actually going to see people die? Is Yuka going to be dead? Like, who's going to win? Yuka versus Deborah, I think, is the real question. Tsurugi and Maru, despite it being an awesome fight and it being very important to both of their characters, the real important fight that I want to know what happens is Yuka and Deborah. I need to know if Deborah wins. And if Deborah wins, is Yuka cooked? Is she dead? Because that would be wild. Gege just kills Yuka off like that. Do I think Yuji might have the anti-gravity curse technique? That would be a little crazy. But at this point, I don't know what else to expect from Yuji. Yuji could pull anything out, and I would just accept it at this point. Yuji throwing out the projectile dismantle. Unreal. Like, one of the craziest things I've seen in a long time. I like that I can't predict what these last few chapters will be. That is the best part of every story, right? Having no fucking idea what's about to happen next. Nothing but plain theories and nothing but like, oh my god, it's just gonna be peak. I know it's gonna be good, but I can't tell you like what's gonna happen. Best stories imaginable. The fact that Modulo is almost coming to a close is a sad feeling. Because who knows how much longer it will be until we get some more Jujutsu Kaisen content. We may never get new Jujutsu Kaisen mangas. I know we have the horror novel, but, you know, if we were blessed to get a Jujutsu Kaisen sequel so early after the end. What's up with the Gege slander? Why do people not like his writing? Because people are just mad that some of their really strong fan theories that they were crafting for years didn't happen. I think Gege's writing is absolute peak. I love Gege's writing. I think he's one of the best, you know, storytellers in Shonen Jump at the moment. And I will follow this man to the end of the earth. Like, I think the only real issue with the end of JJK is just that Kenjaku, you know, I guess Kenjaku went out too early. But everything else in Jujutsu Kaisen's ending is fine. Like, I don't think there's really any other major criticisms you could really make. Choso died and that makes Gege a bad author? Facts. True. True. I didn't think about it like that. I think the other sorcerers will show what their curse techniques are, like a jumping of Deborah would be cool. Maybe like right after Yuka dies, maybe everyone starts to jump in, but right now all the other sorcerers just got taken out by Yuji, so I doubt it. I think there are still other ones, but most of the strong people just got, quote unquote strong, just got incapacitated by Yuji at the snap of a finger. Kind of crazy when you think about it. Yuji just toppled the Jujutsu Society in about 5 seconds. What happened to the rest of the self-sustained corpses? That's a good question. I thought about that when this recent anime episode came up, especially when Yaga was like, this forest will be protected by Tengen. I imagine all of the self-sustained curses eventually just burned out. Yaga did say that Takeru's mother would continue to visit him, so I'm sure people still visited the secret place and like, you know, came to say hi, but like Panda, they all probably just eventually ran out and just, you know, suspended animation. Jumping Deborah wouldn't do anything anyway. Exactly. Deborah is one of the strongest in the universe. Like, Deborah versus Yuji is gonna be wild if it actually happens. My reason Panda right now is because his 2 cores were destroyed, though. I guess that's true. Then maybe they're just immortal. I mean, all the people that knew who they were would have eventually died. So they're just living in that secret forest forever. Maybe that's where Yuji hangs out in his spare time. Is Yuji strong enough to take on Dabura? I think Yuji's strong enough. The light speed is going to be a little tough to handle. Gonna be a little tough to handle. But again, I'm telling you, old man Toto in the wheelchair with the fucking hyperdrive little fucking bell next to him that he just dings and it snaps and it sends Yuji in a swap speed of faster than light or whatever, you know. Something fucking ridiculous. I don't know, dude, but I really don't know. I don't know how this series is gonna end. I don't know what the next couple of chapters are gonna you know, involve, but I know I will fucking be there to find out, y'all. But I think right now, guys, it's gonna be coming up towards the end of stream. I do love all of you guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out and spending time. It's time to walk the doggos. And honestly, I mean, I could spend 3 hours, 5 hours yapping about this chapter. It was a really, really good fucking chapter. So I'm happy that we finally got Yuji and Modulo. It's something that we've all been waiting for since chapter 6. And alls I'll say, guys, alls I will say is if you're looking for more content, you're looking for more stuff to check out, please consider going to the main channel. The main channel has a bunch of stuff to watch. The main channel has a bunch of shit to go through, whether it's Jujutsu Kaisen stuff, other series. There's plenty of things to cover. Cartoons, video games, everything. I got some really cool, in my opinion, videos for you guys to check out on the main channel. So if you're interested in stuff like that, please go check it out. Link I'm just gonna put now in chat. And also, if you want to stay up to date with the community, keep talking and staying in, you know, keep the conversation going past all this stuff. Sorry, here is the link to the Discord as well, y'all. If you guys want to continue things going, that is also in chat. Everyone, hit the like button on your way out. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, night, afternoon, morning, whatever time of day it is. I hope you do an absolutely great job in everything that you put your hands on. And just know that if you don't think anyone's in your corner, I'm in your corner. I will see you guys in the next stream, the next video, and love y'all. Peace.